everybody. I'm Erik Mitisek, and welcome to Club Civico, and most importantly, welcome to the launch of Futurebound. I think this is the largest number of attendees we've ever had in this space, and it's so fitting that it's to change the face of childhood education, childhood outcomes, and childhood ventures in the state of Colorado. And it's so fitting that this group of people set the record, because it's one of the most important issues that we have. I always get so excited about the beginnings. Beginnings of things are always the most important, and it's the people that are here right now that can remember when things are small. And this is one of those things that I think the vision is so big that Steffanie and the team at the Piton Foundation and Gary Community Investments and the entire crew has put together to really start to galvanize this community together. That vision is what brought us all here. But what I think is most important are the people that really are going to make it happen. And I think about the humans that have been a part of this journey. I've been really blessed to be part of the story with many of you to get here today. But to now have Sarabeth and the vision of Steffanie and her entire team, it's just a really, really exciting time. Really quick about this space. This space is called Club Civico, and it's really meant to be the intersection of public, private, and nonprofit collaboration to change the state of Colorado forever. We run a portfolio of leadership programs that really drive the state of Colorado forward. Our Governor's Fellowship, our Colorado Leadership Academy, and we exist to create leaders that do exactly what this organization is doing, changing the face of the state. And so we're so honored to have you here and host you here. And most importantly, I think we're really excited to stand behind this mission as we get started, because I haven't seen anything this exciting happening in our community in a long time. And by the number of you that showed up today, it's clearly that A, it's really important, and B, you're really excited, and C, you're so excited that it was so hard to get everyone forward to get started, because we're all friends in trying to solve this massive issue for the state. And so, without further ado, I'd love to introduce the woman who's going to take us on this journey, Steffanie Clothier. And Steffanie, you've been an amazing investment director for all things childhood development at Gary Community Investments. And your vision, your heart, and your spirit has brought us this far. And it's so amazing to see what happens when an idea starts to tumble into a snowball, starts to roll down the hill, starts to create an avalanche, and bring us to today. So Steffanie, tell us how exciting Futurebound is going to be and how we're going to get there together.
So first off, a big thank you to Erik and to Civico for hosting us in this beautiful space. I mean, none of us have ever been in this building, I think, and it's just so spectacular. So a big round of applause for Erik and Civico. I want to thank Erik for all of his great advice and inspiration throughout this journey. We've been thinking about and talking to lots of people about innovation, and it's just been so wonderful to have you on the team and really helping us think this through. So again, I'm Steffanie Clothier. I'm an investment director at Gary Community Investments, and I focus on school readiness and early childhood. That really means thinking about how to improve the lives of low-income children in Colorado. We do that through a lot of different strategies. That means supporting early childhood development. It means health and mental health. It means supporting families with economic security and helping communities to thrive. Can you hear? Okay. You're like behind the glass. So Gary Community Investments, a couple of other little things about us. One is that we are both a foundation and an investment company, and that really gives us the flexibility to deploy capital in all kinds of ways, and that helps us think in a creative way, and that's what brings many of you to this table from lots of different angles. We are also a sunsetting organization, and for us, that creates a real sense of urgency to really achieve our mission as quickly as we can. So we will take bold steps when we need to. We will invest and take as smart risks as we can possibly take to be able to have the kind of impact we want to have for low-income children and families. So our journey really around this innovation work started in 2017 when our board approved a plan that would really help us design and execute on a set of innovation strategies. And that has really resulted in a number of things. What we really wanted to do was source the best ideas around early childhood. We've done a ton of great work to innovate and to bring child development forward, but we all know we can do better. Children are not thriving yet, and we have a long way to go. And you all in this room are the people that are going to make that happen. So we wanted to source the best ideas. And there's a baby in the room. Exactly. The other thing we wanted to do was really attract more entrepreneurs and capital into the space, and so we've used a number of strategies to do that as well. So it's been a very interesting journey. Today, we are here to launch Futurebound, which used to be called the Colorado Innovation Ecosystem for Children. So thus, we've gotten a better brand name now. No, but I'm really excited to be here. This has been a journey with so many of you in the room. We have talked to you about what you think ventures need, and that's whether it's nonprofits or for-profits or government or researchers, and really try to take that into account to think about what an innovation ecosystem could do to support all of you. So I'm super excited that you're all here, that this is an issue that you'd like to be on this journey with us to accomplish. And I'm actually now going to turn it over to our new Director of Futurebound, Sarabeth Berk. We are super excited to have Sarabeth on this team, and she's going to be the person who's really, her role is an ecosystem builder. And you're going to help us understand what that really means and how you want to participate. So I just want to say thank you, Sarabeth, for being here, for going on this journey with us, to thank you for being here to help us think through how to really launch this work forward. I also want to thank all of the GCI staff who are part of the innovation team and the team that put this meeting together. So thanks so much.
What a moment. I cannot believe how full this room is. Before I get started, there are seats up here, and we do have a few bits of content we want to go through. So if people want to be brave souls, we've got some in the front rows. Always the front is the best. But over the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about what Futurebound is, where we're going, why this matters, kind of clear up some of those questions you might have on your mind. And then we'll have some more words with Erik and Robin, who are some great leaders already in the community and helping support the work. So there's a few people that are going to speak, and then we'll let you get back to networking, because it's about all the connections in the room tonight. So, echoing what Steph said, I really just have to thank and give shout outs because I am riding a wave of great work that's already started, and it's about to build and get bigger. So Steph, thank you. Christina, Kate, Melissa, Alicia, the Uncharted team, Spark Policy. I mean, there's been an effort underway, and I feel so blessed to have the dream opportunity right now to get to be with all of you and move this forward. So if I haven't met you before, I'm Sarabeth Berk, the new Director of Futurebound. I see a lot of familiar faces, and it's amazing to have that community and network come join this new community that I'm about to meet all of you. It's such an exciting way to bridge already those two groups. My background, because I want you to understand a little bit about where I'm coming from and why this work matters to me. So I am a Colorado girl. I moved here when I was 7 with my family, and we lived up in Basalt in the mountains in the Roaring Fork Valley. So I really understand the rural communities and how big this state is and how wonderful it is to live in the metro area and the small towns. And so when I graduated high school, I had to see what else was out there, but I kept moving into Colorado and out a few different times until I really realized Denver's where I want to be. I've been here for the last 7 years, deeply in the education community, working in K-12 and higher ed. And I call myself a hybrid professional. And the reason is I'm always more than my job title. I'm this artist and an educator and a researcher and a designer. Those are sort of the core professional identities that make me tick. And they allow me to see things and work in ways that I think are really unique. But I'm never really just pulling from one thing. I'm always blending and mashing those together. And I want to highlight 3 experiences that really drive my passion and my why for this work. So the first one I want to bring up is when I taught children's ski school. I was a ski instructor, and I was at Snowmass teaching the bears and grizzlies, which are the 3 to 6-year-olds. And they were adorable, and I went uphill way more than downhill because it was always chasing back the kid that fell down. But that experience, we had a motto for ski school, which was safety, fun, and learning. And that was in that order for a reason, because if kids didn't have fun, they weren't going to come back to ski school. And even ski instructors realize you have to have play and fun and learning for it to matter. Kids need to have that curiosity. And it also showed me how much I love teaching and learning. That's really the space where I flourish, and I love working with children of all ages, and I have been in my career. The second experience that's been pretty powerful was when I worked and did a community outreach program and brought artists into schools in really small towns where they were predominantly Spanish speaking and low income, and they didn't have access to the arts. And this one time I'm in a second grade classroom, and this little girl, she comes up to me and says, "Are you an artist? I've never met a real artist before." And that struck me, right? I mean, I still remember this girl, because the power of important experiences for that time of life are transformative, and they need to be exposed to a diversity of opportunities. And I was bringing that and seeing how much of a difference that made. The third experience was when I was in Denver Public Schools, and I was working in the Innovation Lab, which used to be the Imaginarium, and was helping lead innovation work across the district and really transforming what school could be, what we were doing with pedagogy and curriculum and leadership. It was so much great work. And this one meeting I was in with a bunch of leaders from the district, and we were talking about a new strategy and program for a school. And they looked at me and said, "Well, what do you recommend? Where do we start with the work?" I said, "Well, as a design thinker, we should start with empathy. We should talk to the teachers and hear from them what's going on." And this leader looked at me and he said, "No, we don't need to do that. We're in those schools every day. We know what those teachers are thinking and feeling. We can skip that step." And that left a mark with me. Because if you know anything about empathy, it's walking in the shoes of somebody else. And it's testing your assumptions, right? It's seeing things from a new perspective. And to me, innovation has to have that, because we need to test the status quo, that things we thought were true may not be true anymore. And so I hold that as a core value. Now, my last role was at CU Boulder, and I was leading a brand new innovation and entrepreneurship initiative for campus. The dream there was to turn the university into an innovation university, bringing that culture and spirit and attitude and mindset of working across the silos, breaking down barriers, looking at real world problems together, taking risks, failing fast, because those are the mindsets that matter for all of us, and we have to do that work together. And I built on all my prior experiences, but I added a new part, which is I realized I'm a systems thinker and a systems designer, and I flourished, and I loved that role. And now with Futurebound, I get to bring all of this to this work with you, because we have something really major to create together. I just got goosebumps saying this. It's going to be an amazing ride. So thank you all for showing up for this. So let's talk about Futurebound, because there's some key information I want you to leave with tonight, so it's not as fuzzy in your minds. First of all, Futurebound is really a big space. It's looking at 0 to 10, the first decade of life, which is a little different than just early childhood, when we usually say 0 to 5. So that's 48 million children across the US, 1.2 million just in Colorado alone, and 442,000 of those are low income. This is a big space, and they need us. Why is this so important? In the earliest years of life, many of you know, that is when so much brain development occurs. 700 neural connections are created per second in just the first years of life. It's also a time when our nervous systems and immune systems are developing. So if we're exposed to toxic stress in those earliest years, it has great impact as we age. Things like heart disease and asthma and ADHD are now being connected back to the stressors that we experience so young. That's incredible, right? What a connection if we can really hit it sooner in life rather than later. And this graph just says it perfectly. Is this cutting out? Okay. The brain development, the brain architecture from 0 to 10 is enormous. It's almost straight up, and then it plateaus a little bit. That's why learning languages when you're 40 and 50 and learning to play guitar is so much harder. But as a kid, it's just all part of that developmental stage. But then look at our spending. Barely anything in the earliest years, when it's the most important time, and then it takes off as we become adults. So what if we change that? This is a study that really shows the return on investment. Anyone that's business-minded can do the math. If we invest earlier, it's 13% higher return on investment. That's helping us save money on things like healthcare and special education and the prison system and tax revenue. If we invest earlier, we are going to get more gains for our children and for society. This is a no-brainer. hear why now. People have been working on child development for ages, but there's something special and different going on at this point of time. So more people are getting involved in child development. More people are starting to realize investing in young children is the right time, and capital is coming. The brain research in the last few years with new breakthrough technology is enormous, but that research isn't reaching the field and the practitioners who need it in their current work. How do we close that gap? And childcare, who hasn't heard childcare in the news lately? Because the candidates running for president are talking about this in all the debates and saying this is an economic crisis. We have 70% of our working class parents that need to leave children in childcare to be productive in the economy, but then who's taking care of all those kids? That's 24 million kids that need childcare. And they need high quality experiences in those years of life. And if we don't look at this closely and now, we're really gonna see some hard times in our society. But what about why Colorado? Why not? We know this is an amazing state. We do things here that no other state achieves. We've been the first in so many things. We have one of the top startup communities in the nation. Denver Startup Week is blowing up. Erik helped found that. We have the right people. It's a collaborative community. People in Colorado work together in ways that you just don't see in other places. Our governor, he is so supportive. Polis just passed a bill for free all-day kindergarten. We have the right climate. So everybody's ready. The timing is now. So what is Futurebound? This is where it gets exciting. I want to start with two stories to paint the picture just a little clearer. I'm going to talk about two founders that I've met through my time at Cedar Boulder. The first one is Jessica. She founded the Bedtime Box. So she's a mom of two. She went to night school to work on her MBA in the evening program at the Leeds School of Business. And during that time, she realized the problem she wanted to solve was putting kids to bed, because that's a hard ritual, and parents struggle with it and kids struggle with it. How do you make that easier? But Jessica didn't have the right connections and resources. She tried an Indiegogo campaign. She didn't meet her goal. She needed to know researchers to understand why is bedtime important? How do I build a credible case for this? So people like Jessica are trying to figure out how do they build ideas in this space and get them to take off. The other person is Jacob Zaks. I met Jacob actually 4 years ago when I was working at Denver Public Schools. He's a graduate of Techstars. If you don't know that program, it's one of the leading accelerators for new startups. So that they really vet highly who comes into that. And you get a lot of resources. You get mentorship, you get capital, you get introductions, which are the things entrepreneurs need. But that actually wasn't enough for Jacob, because he's trying to create a new way of learning music education. And even though he had investors and he had educators and he had kids that he was working with, all of them were saying, you're failing, you're not doing this part right, you're not doing that right. He's like, but I know I'm onto something. And he's raised capital, but he almost kept running out and stopping. But he's a true entrepreneur, and he kept networking, and he's like, Sarabeth, I've been spending 6 years trying to figure this out, and I think I just did. He had a new realization. I talked to him just last week. He said, the investors want one thing, the educators that I'm trying to sell the product to want something else, and the kids, they want to enjoy it. They need a different thing too. I actually need a whole new business model. This is not traditional venture development like we talk about. Everyone sees it differently. I'm starting to see there's another thing emerging. So look at it this way. What if Jessica and Jacob were standing here right now, and they had the opportunity to meet all of you and access the rich, vast expertise in this room? Instead of taking years, it would take moments for them to move through these problems, because we're interconnecting and problem solving together instead of letting them just figure it out. So from the point of view from the people in this room, the pain points look a little like this in the space of child development. You have the innovators that are coming up with solutions saying, I can't find what I need right now, but I've got a great idea. Where do I go? You have the providers and the families that are like, that's a cool idea, but don't you dare test it on our kids. Come back when you're not in beta anymore. So how do you work through that? You have the funders that are saying, wait, who's your customer? It's children? I'm sorry, children aren't paying. Oh, so you're selling to schools? That's a really long sales cycle. Oh, you're working with healthcare? There is so much regulation in that industry. What's the revenue source for me? The child development leaders are like, oh my gosh, we need innovation, we need it now more than ever before. But there's kind of policies and bureaucracy we're gonna have to navigate. That's a little sticky. And then lastly is the children, right? They're like, is it cool? Is it fun? How do you serve all of these? That's what success looks like. So in my mind, and I'd love to test this with you, if we're gonna make this work, success and solutions need to, A, impact child development. They really need to be research-based and turning that dial. But then they have to serve two different prongs of desirability, which are kids have to like it, the young children, and the practitioners and the families, the people using it. And then it has to be accessible. It has to be affordable. It has to be usable. It has to be culturally relevant, all of those other things. If you can get those 4 parts right, then we have a breakthrough solution. So that's hard. How the heck are we going to do this? That's Futurebound. This is the point of convergence and interrelatedness in those intersections. Because it's hard for any one of you when you're deep and in the work and you've been doing this for years to pull up and to find out, how do I connect? Where is that entity, that movement, that thing that's in the middle, kind of holding space and convening and bringing the big picture together? That's how I'm going to work with all of you, is to bring those bridges and convene you and think through these things in ways we haven't been working together yet. That's the revolutionary idea here. So it looks like this. Futurebound is catalyzing, tackling barriers, and really supporting innovative solutions. The catalyzing will be in things like this, networking and finding times to curate and build meaningful connections. The barriers are what I explained with the different stakeholders, all the things on your mind of, it works, but it doesn't work because of this. And supportive innovation solutions are for-profit and nonprofit ventures. They might be new entities. Well, what about the existing work that you're doing and the organizations already on the ground? You need support too, and innovation can happen inside of existing organizations. So solutions are going to come from everywhere, but they all need different kinds of support. So Futurebound is bringing new ways of us working together to really drive innovation for early childhood. For child development, ages 0 to 10. Working on that. We already have partners. Gary Community has an amazing network, but all of you in this room, I'm sure, have more introductions and more people we need to bring to the table. But you can see there are some amazing names up on this slide. So where are we now, and how can you get started with us? We are mapping. The first part of the work is learning all of you, meeting all of you, actually quantifying who do we need to know so that we can start to bring you together. So you can provide input for us. Supporting ventures. You're going to hear from a moment from Uncharted. They're going to describe the work they're doing to bring ventures into the space. You could become a mentor. Your expertise is vital. Preparing pilot sites. As I said before, testing on children is not necessarily something people feel good about. But there's safe and appropriate ways to do it. And we're looking for pilot partners that are willing to go out there and figure out how to pilot. The connectors, the people that are just, you know, you're like in the center, you know the right connections, help be a champion. And put this date in your calendar right now. We're hosting a big summit in November. This will be a time when the ventures that I mentioned you'll hear about will be featured and you'll get to hear some new solutions. But also there'll be more convenings like this in a really specific, organized way. So details will be coming. So come be a partner or come be an attendee. If you have ideas for the summit, let us know. So with that, I want to invite Erik and Robin up here so that they can tell you a little bit about why they're in this work with us and what they see the future is. Then you'll hear from Banks, and we have a final activity to engage all of you before you go, and then it's time to drink again. Robin, come on up. Erik? Great. So I want to kick it off with asking, can you introduce yourselves? Who are you? What do you do? What's your role in the community?
I'm Erik Mitisek, and I'm an innovator. I spend most of my time trying to disrupt things in this community, and have started things like Denver Startup Week. I served Governor Hickenlooper as a Chief Innovation Officer. I live at trying to make things and create things that create a better Colorado, and early childhood development, I think, is at the absolute root of our success going forward, and I'm really, really excited to be here. And most importantly, my dad.
Hi everybody, I'm Robin Deterding, and I am here because I'm thrilled we're going to talk about this for kids. I'm a pediatric pulmonologist, so that means I'm a pediatrician that thinks about lungs. I work at Children's Hospital, and I'm the medical director of the Innovation Center there. So I've seen all the amazing opportunities out there that could happen for kids. I'm also a mom of 2 adopted kids with ADHD, and I think this is an opportunity to really change things for kids. It's the moment, like you said, that this all can come together.
So as a caveat, Erik and Robin have been already helping Futurebound in some advisory capacity and thinking through like how do we get this off the ground. So can you talk a little bit about what you're noticing, why you decided to become a part of this before there was even a reality or anything?
I would love to. I think when I think about the ability to solve problems, I think your adage of being able to move forward together has never been more apropos. When you think about the construct of the challenges we face in the childhood development, early childhood work, there's lots of barriers between regulatory work, between clinicians, between innovators, between entrepreneurs, between capital, between those who actually are going to receive the benefits of these things being created. And we just need to work collectively to work through those barriers, catalyze, I think, the opportunities in front of us, and then most importantly, collaborate to just look at the bigger picture. It's always easy to be myopic in our own worlds, and as an innovator, and as a program builder, and as an investor, as an entrepreneur, I can see across all these various things. And when people like Dave Youngren and his team at Garrett Community Investments have really big ideas for us, I listen, and I think it's really, really impressive to see what you guys have put together. And so I get really excited about the challenge in front of us, but this work is something that is not a year's worth of work, it's the next 100 years worth of work. And so I get motivated by chipping at this thing one thing at a time, and then the collective collaboration that hopefully can come from this entire program of Futurebound.
So I have the wonderful opportunity to go into rooms with kids and ask them questions and see kids in the hospital. And I often say to people, I look deep into kids' eyes and I can't tell how much money their parents make. And yet we see the tremendous impact that socioeconomic changes make on these kids. And health and education and learning are linked so tightly. We have kids that are in the hospital because of medical problems, and there are critical periods, make no mistake about it. There are critical periods when you can learn to eat, and they won't eat anymore if they don't have that period. We see kids like that. They won't speak right if somebody's not talking to them or reading to them. Sarabeth talked to you about the immune system, told you about learning, brain development. These two systems are linked, and yet, what's really hard is that the healthcare system doesn't always talk to the early childhood system. And so one of the passions I have is how do we link this together to create some amazing opportunities, because we know this. Outcome measures are in early development, and that's both these systems together. So I am thrilled to be a part of this because there are so many new, innovative, disruptive ways we can bring things into environments and check. I mean, Children's Hospital has daycares in different systems, and I'm just using that as an example. How do we get entrepreneurs in there, not just to create a great idea with technology, because you guys all do, I know, but how do we check to see if it works in a system? That's the value of Futurebound. That's why I'm really excited, because when great people from diverse environments get together, we can link healthcare, early childhood, development, and these wonderful, innovative entrepreneurs and funders. I haven't let you off the hook. There's some, we need that too, with these great ideas. But we can change things here in Colorado and lead.
So I just have one more question for them, and then we'll move on. The idea that anytime you're starting something, you need to have some mission and vision and values, right? And the mission right now is about changing the future of child development. And the core values of what we're doing in this work and what's guiding it, what are our shared beliefs, we need to figure out. And that's a question I'm going to pose to all of you, so keep it in your mind. That's our final activity tonight. But I'd like to hear from both of you, what do you value and want to see in this work? Can you describe that?
For sure. I spent the last decade of my life trying to build startup communities, not only here in Colorado, but across the United States. And there's a handful of things that I found really, really valuable when I think about innovation communities and trying to really build out things that require most importantly, humans to take ideas to reality and really achieve the impact of what they think that their ideas can have. Having built things like Denver Startup Week, which is now the largest free innovation event in the entire planet, it's right here in the city. It's so incredible to watch and see the power of inclusivity. So how do you really inspire to create an environment where everyone has a voice? And when I say everyone, I mean absolutely everyone. It's the intentionality of making sure that you're inclusive across all aspects of the stakeholders in the group. And we think about the work we've done with Startup Week. I think every single year we challenge ourselves to be more inclusive, further outreaching, further challenging ourselves to see who's not at the table. And so I think from a value perspective, I think the inclusivity is absolutely paramount. I think empathy can never be enough. I always live by a quote that always inspires me that your imagination can be used to always think about what can be created, but more importantly, your imagination can be used to understand how people feel. And so I think this is really an opportunity to put ourselves in the shoes of those that we're going to serve, whether it's the entrepreneur, whether it's the families, whether it's our children that we're working in from a childhood development perspective. I think really being imaginative of what is possible is really critical. And so I think from a values perspective, inclusivity and imagination I think will be critical. And most importantly, I think this is Colorado. And when I think about what we have here, we have this laboratory of innovation that we've always been able to press forward, whether it's cannabis or whether it's the telecom industry or whether it's the last tech wave. The idea of childhood development mixed with innovation, mixed with investment, mixed with innovation building is really, really exciting. And so I think this idea that we can really put our Colorado values alongside of them be really inspiring and can just really, really put Futurebound on the map.
So value is collaboration. Then no idea is crazy, right? Think out of the box, bring it to the center, what you're talking about, and reach across and hang with people you don't normally hang with, right? So the healthcare people should be hanging with the early educators, and we should find venture. And that mixture of ideas should be able to generate something new. And I guess the other thing is things can really be different. And it doesn't take that much to make a difference in what we have now. Because there's so many ways to impact things in the community. I mean, we see it every day. I mean, how do you read to kids who don't have a parent that's going to read to them? So how they can be exposed to speech. I'm just giving you ideas. How do we look at the brain? I'm not promoting anything. I'm not, okay, so I don't know. Okay. But how do we look at the brain in different ways?
You do know, actually.
I don't. And how do we look at the brain in different ways? How do we get kids their medication? Because if they're not healthy, they're not going to school. If they're not healthy, they don't feel like doing anything. And so I see this every day, and I always say it doesn't take that much. It takes passion. And the final value I have is not quitting. Be persistent. Say it may get to yes, no matter what it takes, get to yes. And so I think Futurebound has all the ingredients to get to yes for our kids. And the other thing I think, I've been with this group now for a year. All the people in this room, I look around and I teach people, when you say the following, if not us, who? Then it's time for you to do that. And really, I've been in the innovation community now at Children's Hospital, looking at innovation around the world. And in the nation, and I don't see anything like this. So here's the challenge, if not us, who? That's my name.
Let's give them applause. Some very important words there. So moving right along, Uncharted is one of our partners this year, and they were selected because they are so excellent at looking at social problems and guiding new ventures and new solutions through a really wild, wicked, hairy, scary, confusing landscape that requires a lot of different ideas and solutions. So I'd like to invite Banks up to explain how we're working with them, what this first round of ventures looks like, and he's going to describe that process. Come on up.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Banks Benitez. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Uncharted. Really excited to be here. I was driving over here. I grew up like 3 blocks away from here. I was born at Rose Hospital. My parents have been here for 45 years. They're not here tonight in this room. They're out of town. But I told them that I'm speaking tonight, and I just got a text. They said, what time? I said, 5:45. And they said, okay, we'll be thinking of you. And they just sent me a text a minute ago saying, go get them, you got this. And it just makes me think, like, parents are incredible, and are just true heroes, and my parents are my heroes. And so to all the parents in this room and caregivers, I mean, there's a huge part of this is about parents and caregivers. And so I just want to acknowledge that and not get too emotional with my parents. So Uncharted, Futurebound Accelerator, excuse me. We are a social impact accelerator. We are building coordinated movements of people that are tackling problems from different angles. What kind of problems? Social and environmental problems. For each program that we take on a specific social issue: urban poverty, affordable housing, food insecurity, workforce development. But what we're learning as we've doing this, we've been around for since 2009, the last 10 years we've been doing this work. What we've seen is that child development, the upstream driver of so many downstream social issues, is really where the impact starts. And this is the most exciting place to be working because, as Sarabeth mentioned, there's cascading impact for generations. And this is just super exciting. So we are partnering with the Futurebound team to run an acceleration lab. An acceleration lab is a 9-month initiative that is advancing 8 breakthrough solutions, both for-profits and nonprofits, that are addressing early childhood and child development's most pressing issues, most complex challenges. And this is exciting work, and we're just beginning to dive in right now as a team collectively with our Uncharted team. There's many of our Uncharted team here, as well as the GCI and Futurebound team. So this is not a traditional accelerator. People have an idea of what an accelerator is, of growing organizations in silos, and we're not about just growing organizations individually. We're about creating a zero-gravity environment where these organizations can connect with the people and the resources and the funding that they need to create impact here in Colorado and to get the support that they will need to go to scale. So each of the ventures, each of the organizations, and I mentioned they're for-profit and nonprofit organizations, receive $30,000 in funding and additional connections to funders and investors, many of whom are in the room here tonight. They receive access to pilot sites in Colorado. These are organizations like hospitals, school districts, and partner practitioner and other types of organizations throughout the state that can help these organizations come in, partner with their teachers, partner with their parents, get to explore how their solutions can be embedded within the state. They get support from leading mentors and experts, people like Robin, people like Erik, the Futurebound team, Sarabeth, the GCI experts, and many of you who are in the room tonight. They're going to tap into the collective wisdom and expertise that exists in this community. They're going to build out an action plan to expand into Colorado if they don't already exist here, or if they are already here, to expand further throughout the state. And so we're going to work with them over the course of 9 months to help them take their impact, take their models to scale. And then for the course of 9 months, ongoing, in-depth, customized support. Fractional CFOs that come alongside these organizations and help build out financial models, do accounting audits, help them secure capital and meet with prospective funders, rapid prototyping curriculum, matchmaking with additional mentors and support networks throughout the state. So all of that's going to happen over the next 9 months. And as Sarabeth mentioned, there's the Futurebound Summit taking place in November. This is a 4-day event, and the intention for this event is for these organizations, these breakthrough solutions, to accomplish in 4 days what would otherwise take 4 months to accomplish when it comes to building the relationships that they need to be embedded within this state and to create impact here. And so this initiative, these 4 days here in Colorado in November, are going to be a chance for them, a collective accelerator, for them to meet with partners, meet with pilot sites, meet with mentors, and not just grow individually, but grow collectively as a community. So the applications for this process have already opened. Tomorrow is the last night that they are open for. We'll close them tomorrow. We'll be selecting, yes ma'am.
But because you're a special community, if you know of ventures that actually should be a part of this, we really won't close until Sunday. So they can slide in.
2 extra days. Midnight on Sunday, right? Is that right? Midnight on Sunday. So applications will close. We're going to begin to review applications next week. Our team is going to be diving in then. We'll be selecting organizations in September, announcing these 8 breakthrough solutions in October, in time for November, when they will get a chance to stand up in front of this audience and many more people and share their breakthrough solution in child development to this community and to the broader Colorado ecosystem. And so this is the process. Then there will be an ongoing support for 9 months. And of course, Futurebound is here to stay and be a permanent fixture in this ecosystem and community. And so they will receive ongoing continued support from the team. So that is the Acceleration Lab component. We're really excited to be here. Yes, so many of you have, we've heard from many folks who've already been applying. These are, again, for-profit and nonprofit organizations that are addressing one of the child development's most complex challenges. They are looking for, if you're a venture that's looking for funding, looking for mentorship, looking for access to organizations here in the state, whether it's partnerships with pilot sites, school districts, hospitals, people in the education and the healthcare space, the brain science development space. If there are organizations that are looking to land in Colorado that don't already exist, or are looking to expand throughout Colorado, that have a model, but need support, this Acceleration Lab is for them. That's it.
Thanks. We're so excited. There's so much going on already if you haven't noticed. And just to reiterate, the best ideas that we're looking for to come into the Acceleration Lab are not super early stage, they're past idea. They might have a little proof of concept by now, so that's sort of the fit we're looking for. But you can ask Banks or myself or others about that tonight, or email us later. So one last request before we let you stand up with us is to engage. We want to hear from you because this is what Futurebound's about, is building together. So the way it works is you're going to use this bit.ly on your mobile device. If you want a paper copy, we do have those floating around. And the question we want to ask is, what values do you believe should be in this work? Much like Robin and Erik just shared their core values. We're sourcing from all of you to hear collectively, what do you believe matters to you as we share and build? We'll be looking at that data and then helping to kind of come up with a core set for Futurebound. Also, in this bit.ly, there's a second page to it. And that's a way for us to gather more information about you. So many of you in here have different expertise and skill sets. You represent different backgrounds. And we would like to know that. So if you spend an extra 5 minutes, it just has a few questions, and we'd really appreciate you just giving some information so we can come back to you and ask you the right questions on how you want to engage. Futurebound is really about nonprofits, for-profits, government, healthcare, education, daycare, families, policymakers, investors. It's a collective enterprise of networking and ecosystem building. So everyone belongs at the table, and we are so glad you're here. I can't wait to talk to you and meet you. This is just the beginning, and this is the launch of something great for Colorado and for our young children across the state. Thank you so much for coming tonight, and we look forward to hearing from you more.